Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast, episode 505. Welcome to Raging Bullets. I'm Sean Whalen, drnorge, and I'm joined as always by my co-hosts Jim, the sensei of the whatnot Segulin, the Duke of and the elder statesman of the podcast.
How's it going, eh?
Jim, on this episode, we're going to talk Wonder Woman 28 and 29. We're going to check in real quick about the Batman Telltale game that's currently out, talk a little bit briefly about the Wonder Woman film, and we have a great voicemail from friend of the show, Scott Smith. So without further ado, we are proud members of the Comics Podcast Network, the League of Comic Book Podcasts, and the InfiniteComics.com podcast partnership. Mr. Segulin, this episode and every episode, we are, of course, sponsored by DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. What is going on over at DCBService.com?
Well, first, of course, we have bundles.
Wait, hold on. What? They have bundles?
They have bundles, and these are 50% off bundles. Yes, 50% off bundles. We've got Dark Knight Metal. We've got the continuing various mini-series. You know, we've got some variant covers that are at 40% off, not 50% off, unfortunately. But no, 45% off. But hey, they're still really cool-looking variant covers. But you know what else they have at 50% off? Yes, 50% off. They have the DC Superhero Girls boxed set. Yes, the first four of the all-age Superhero Girls graphic novels are completely together in a really cool-looking box set. 50% off, only $17.49. Thank you, DCBS.
I should note that those are also written by Shia Fontana, who did this Wonder Woman arc that we're going to be talking about on this episode. So I wanted to shout that out. Also want to remind everyone that DCBService.com is a digital partner with Comixology and My Digital Comics. If you go to DCBService.com, log into your account, link your account to Comixology or My Digital Comics, you earn 5% of those purchases towards your DCB service order. All you have to do is go to their website from their drop-down menu, click on Comixology or My Digital Comics, you shop through their portal. Their portal doesn't charge you anything more. It just makes sure that you get credit for those purchases from DCBService.com, and 5% of those purchases go towards your order. So it's a great way to help out our show sponsor, earn some credit for yourself, and get some free stuff, which is always great. So thank you, DCBService.com. Over at InStockTrades.com, some of the latest releases are out, and they're some of my favorites. I'm a big fan of the artwork of Kelly Jones, specifically in Batman is where I got to know Kelly Jones, but did a wonderful series of pieces relating to Deadman. They've got the Kelly Jones Deadman complete collection, 42% off, only $14.49. Aquaman trade paperback volume 3, Crown of Atlantis, 42% off, only $11.59. Batman trade paperback volume 3, I Am Bane. If you missed this storyline, you can get it for 42% off, only $9.85. Looking for something classic with Batman? Batman Shadow of the Bat trade paperback volume 2. This was great material. Alan Grant, 42% off, $17.39. Lots of DC stuff that just came out and released. Go check it out over at InStockTrades.com. I want to thank both companies for supporting our show. Jim, what kind of a podcast are we?
Raging Bullets is a spoiler podcast. We go in depth into plotline, story twists, and whatnot of the comics we're discussing on today's show. So, if you ever read the books, you may want to come back later so you can better enjoy the show.
Let's talk some comics. Jim, before we jump into talking about Wonder Woman this episode, I want to talk about Batman's Telltale game, the new one, because I just beat episode 1, and I want to talk about the Wonder Woman film, which was just released digitally, and I just wanted to do a quick little shout-out to it because of the experience I had with it. But let's start off with the Batman Telltale game. So I got to the end of the first episode, and I'm playing this very differently than I do other Telltale games, because I play a lot of them. I grew up enjoying the point-and-click adventure games, and I like the way Telltale's modernized that concept, and they took some of the original properties, kind of brought them back to life again, but then started doing their own things, like Walking Dead and stuff like that, Walking Dead I've greatly enjoyed. So when they got the Batman property, I'm like, so we've got this great rock-steady Batman game that's already out. This Batman series is out, the Arkham series. And now we're going to be getting Telltale doing Batman. How cool is that? Now, what I usually do with these games, and I'm notorious for this, if I don't like the choice or the consequences of the choice that I've made, I will stop the game and restart that segment again so I can make a choice that has the outcome I'm looking for. I'm not doing that with Batman. And it's interesting why. What I'm finding with this game is I'm liking the fact that I feel like it's an Elseworld story, completely embracing that concept. We're meeting a lot of Batman's rogues galleries and his allies and confidants for the first time. But it's totally Elseworlds, and my choices matter in this world. And it actually gives me this sense of how hard it is to be Batman. Because I'll make choices, and I'm like, ooh, ugh. Like you try to have your own code. Like, for example, let's use Commissioner Gordon as an example. Commissioner Gordon's my ally. Jim Gordon's well-written in this. Want to hang with him. He's tentative with Batman because this is early in their relationship, but this is after the first game where they just had this major adventure together. And you want to foster that relationship, which means you make choices that cause, I'll just say it, Amanda Waller's in this game as well. You'll make choices that cause a strained relationship with her. Relationships play a big factor in this game, as well as action sequences and choices on how to handle them. There are certain sequences in this where you can choose to handle it as Bruce Wayne or choose to handle it as Batman. The choice that you make has a dramatic effect on relationships in this game, because one way validates one choice, one way validates another. One way has Batman be the heavy, the other one has Bruce Wayne. And there's reasons and pros and cons for it that you really have to reason out and rationalize with yourself and just say, how do I want this to go down? What do I want the consequences? You know that there's consequences to both choices. What consequences I'm willing to live with, and which one will give me the positive results that I'm looking for? And is the negative that can come along with that choice worth the positive that you're making? I love that about this game. I love that I feel like this is my journey as Batman. I'm making choices as Batman in this. I'm making mistakes sometimes, just like we shake our head and just want to strangle Batman sometimes in the comics. I want to do it to myself in the game because I'm like, I just did that. And look what it just did. And look who's mad at me now. And guess what that could mean later? Characters live and die in this game based on your decision. Some characters die and you have no choices. They make some bold moves in this first episode that blow my mind. I'm like, did they really just do that? All bets are off in this game. This game is not beholden to any comic continuity. They're doing their own thing. And I like it. It's actually very freeing that they're doing that. Totally Elseworlds. So for those of you that like the Ultimate Marvel Universe when they came out, for those of you that have always loved Elseworlds books where they've embraced that concept, you're going to feel right at home here because this is their Batman continuity. And in many ways, it's your Batman continuity. And I like that about it. It's freeing, and it makes the story feel like as you're driving it, your choices matter. I love that the choices from the last game carried over. There's things I did in the last one that are having impact now, and I'm like, oh yeah, I did do that, didn't I? And I like that. I like the sense of continuity. So this really is, if you played the first 5-episode game, the first episode is episode 6. It just continues right where that one left off. There's a character from the last game named John Doe that makes an appearance. I'm not going to say who John Doe is. John Doe is going to be a big player in this game. And I couldn't be more excited for that. The Riddler kicks off. I'm not spoiling anything in that because the Riddler's right in the opening sequence. The Riddler is a big player in this as well. I really love that everybody who's in the game, nobody's background. Everybody's foreground. They're all a part of the story. And you've got to juggle a lot of relationships in this. And you've got to sacrifice relationships in this. There is no way to be Batman without sometimes making that hard choice and knowing that I'm going to make this person mad by doing this. And I love that because we know that's true in the comics, right? There's many times where you want to choke the guy, but then you kind of go, but he had to do it. Yeah. And it's a choice that only Batman could make. Well, this isn't you watching Batman make the choice. This is you making the choice. And I love that. It's just really well designed, well written. I hope this is... I don't follow numbers on this kind of stuff, very similar to comics. I do listen to some video game podcasts that I greatly enjoy, and they'll every so often throw out numbers. I hope this game's doing well, because these Telltale games seem to... I'm guessing by the fact that it garnered a sequel, that the first one did very well. I hope the second one is that same audience is continuing on, and hopefully picking up some new people. I know you're a new player. You've got the game, and you're doing the Walking Dead series, I think, first right now, but then you're going to eventually jump on this. It's great. I mean, it's really, really great. The choices really matter in this, and that part, for me, is important. I want to feel like I'm living the life of Batman in this, and it really does that. I do love that the duality, that Bruce Wayne is just as important a character in this game as Batman is. And making the choices of when to do things as Bruce and when to do things as Batman has a major impact on this game. You know, and the fact that Bruce Wayne is a guy who's in the public eye has a major impact on this game. So it's very well done. They've really, between the first game and the second game, made some bold choices on how they've decided to handle the Batman mythos and how they've decided to put a new spin on certain elements of the Batman mythos that you can't do. You would get crucified if you tried to do in comic continuity. So I like that they embrace, this is Elseworlds. So we can do what we want, and we're going to surprise you. I guess I equate it to the difference between reading the Walking Dead comic book and watching the Walking Dead TV show. Certain characters live and die, and those relationships have changed because of it. Certain characters hooked up in the TV show that didn't hook up in the comics. You know, those type of things. That happens in this. But, man, they made some choices where I'm like, whew, really? You just did that? I love that. And I made some of those choices, which is a lot of fun. So I wanted to shout out that game just because I got the end of Episode 1. I cannot wait for the release of Episode 2. Sometimes with the Telltale games, I stockpile them. I let the episodes until the whole thing's complete, you know, kind of build up, and then I play the whole thing, because that's fun too. But this one, I don't see myself being able to wait, just because I'm just really greatly enjoying the experience a great deal. So, hope that wasn't too spoilery. I wanted to shout this out for people who maybe been on the fence, or maybe you don't have a game console or computer, or you haven't, you know, delved into this, like, I don't know if it's my cup of tea. Try it. And call in if you're playing it. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Are you digging it? Are you not? Are you having a different experience than I am? And if so, what does it look like? I'm fascinated by that. I don't care if you agree with me or not. I just love hearing other people's thoughts. Anyway, the Wonder Woman film was released digitally. And I had a crazy week. It's the start of the school year. We wanted to get an episode out sooner. This is actually the first time where Jim and I are recording 2 episodes back to back. So this is actually our second recording that we're doing. This week, there's so many shows I want to watch and get caught up on that to watch something I've seen before says a lot. I dove at this. So it's my third viewing of Wonder Woman. I think it's my favorite viewing. I am catching things that I didn't catch before, nuances of the character, her compassion, showing up with the way that she takes action. There's this one sequence that I absolutely adored where she and Steve Trevor are walking through this group of people. She's noticing their hardships, and you see Gal Gadot really went out of the way to understand the layers of Diana, because she goes from being this believable fierce warrior to this just deeply compassionate person, where atrocity going on to the smallest of people, and you know, she's the advocate of the people, where you're like watching her going, this is an injustice I can't tolerate. How do people tolerate this? I love seeing the world through her eyes. I think we'd all do a lot better if we were seeing the world through Wonder Woman's eyes right now. I really love the message of this movie. This is my third viewing. I want to watch it a fourth already. And that says a lot about this film. And it's been a while since a comic film has grabbed me like this, where I just want to go watch it again. And this is going to be one of those in my rotation of shortlist films that I've loved so many comic book films that have come out, both Marvel and DC, and actually outside of that. But there's a short list of them that are ones that, like, I know I'm going to watch 85 times. This is one of those. I mean, oof. And I would say more so than a lot of the recent DC releases, this is one I'm going to go back to far, far quicker. Because when I get done with my third viewing, and I can tell you right now, Jim, I want to watch it a fourth. I'm not kidding. Like, tomorrow morning, I'm like planning out my morning before I get ready for work. I like to sit down and have breakfast and stuff. I think I'm going to watch the first hour of Wonder Woman while I'm doing that, because I just want to see it again. It's that good. So I don't know. It's a good film, and it's I'm glad to see it out digitally. I'm glad to still hear it getting the positive buzz, and I'm glad to hear it getting some award buzz. I hope this one, whether it wins anything or not, I hope it's at least nominated, because it deserves it. It's a great movie. And not because it's a superhero film. I could care less about that. This is a great movie. really rewatchable over and over again. And a lot of the films that I like that are the ones that I watch constantly over and over again never make it to the award level. I would love to see something that I really feel is a special movie hit that level. So I hope this one does. It's good stuff. Now, this one, I think you and I buy film digitally differently. Yeah. I think you buy the physical release still, I'm assuming.
I do a little bit of both. A little bit of column A, a little bit of column B sometimes. Okay. If it's something we're going to talk about on the show, then I get it through my computer, so it's easier that way. But my preferred medium is an actual physical disc of it and all that. So, because I spend so much time sitting in front of my computer that when it's time for me to watch a movie, I want to have it downstairs in my family room. And I know there's the Roku and the Apple TV and all those other things where I can make my computer my TV and whatnot. But I'm an idiot when it comes to technology, and that stuff confuses me easily. So I prefer to have that physical disc in hand. Though there are some stuff that I will buy just, I'll buy it digitally because I can get it faster and I can watch it faster.
Yeah, that for me winds up being the thing. I can watch it faster, but I have Apple TVs in every room. I like having all my stuff on Apple TV just because it's a button push. It's like Netflix, just kind of click on that. So there's no right or wrong of this. And the physical sometimes comes with things that the Apple TV stuff doesn't. Although they're getting better. The extra features now are pretty comparable these days.
Now, here's a question for you.
Sure.
With my PlayStation that I have, can I use my PlayStation to access my Apple ID and all that and go that wow? No? Okay. No,
they're different ecosystems. It'd be great, though. Okay. I'd love that. Because I've got my basement where I've got my it's like my man cave game room. That's actually where I've got my big TV. I've got my PlayStation 4 and 3 hooked up there, a couple of retro consoles, and Apple TV. And the reason why the Apple TV's there is because of, that's the only way I can access it. I'd love that. I think that's Apple's way of, and every company does this, getting you to buy their product. It's interesting because Sony has, their PlayStation View, their television. You can watch that on Apple TV now. You can watch that on your computers and things now. You don't have to be just on a PlayStation. They also created an app for their movies and things. When you buy them on the PlayStation Store, you can watch them on Apple devices and your computer and stuff now, which you couldn't do before because of apps. I wish Apple would do the same thing, allowing you to watch their stuff on other devices. It would be just more convenient to have everything on one. But I've got Apple TVs, 3 of my rooms, my upstairs office, my main living room, and downstairs. And you don't have to be computer connected. You just connect to your account, and you can stream them straight through that way, which is nice because your computer can be completely shut off and you can stream them. I love the Apple TV. I think it's a great product. It's one I would certainly advocate. But here's the thing. If you like having the physical and you like how that works, it works great. I mean, the physical stuff works great. And honestly, if you've got already a Blu-ray player, the room where you prefer to watch it, I don't like watching in front of my computer either. Because I'm a tech director for my district. The last thing I want to do when I'm getting a break is to sit in front of a computer. I love my job. I love being in front of the tech. It's the reason why I used to be a big PC gamer. I'm not now. Not because I don't like PC games. I want to be on a couch with a controller in my hand. I want my computer off. So I'm loving my PlayStation and loving playing games that way. But and same thing with movies. To your point, I want to watch it where I'm comfortable. I can kick back, relax. If I get tired, I want a nap. I can hit pause and take a nap. That type of thing. And it's so. I'm in that vibe. So you and I are completely in sync. I don't think the media format matters. But Wonder Woman is phenomenal. And they've got extended scenes. They've got documentaries. All the stuff. And I'm going to watch. I haven't watched the special features yet. I'm going to watch I think there's over 2 hours of special features, at least on the iTunes version. I don't know. I know the Blu-ray version has at least that, if not more. And I don't know. This movie's just. The casting could not be more brilliant. I just can't stop watching it, and I really, really enjoy it every single time. So I'm going to be curious to see how many times I actually watch this in a short stretch, just because I'm finding new things. Daryl Taylor posted, from the Taylor Network of Podcasts. He posted on Facebook. Sometimes you get those Facebook posts, this person's doing this or this person's doing that. I never post anything like that, like I'm watching this movie or that, because I'm like, people don't care. Apparently they do. Because Daryl posted it, and I cared. I was like, hey, dude's watching Wonder Woman when I am. I'm like, that's sweet. So I'm like, so I guess I'm wrong. I thought, and when I say I've never thought it about somebody else, but when I always leery to post that kind of stuff because I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if people really care. They want to see it. In this case, people cared. I cared. I wanted to see what Daryl was watching, and I'm like, oh, man, I was watching Wonder Woman with you. How cool is that? He doesn't know because I didn't post anything there. If he listens to this, he'll know. But I thought it was cool in that moment. There was this sense of synergy that I was watching it with my buddy Daryl. So that's kind of a fun thing from Facebook. But man, that movie's sweet. What a great cat! That whole team of characters that she travels with was so brilliantly cast. Those guys I care about just as much as her. That's a good sign when you put together Wonder Woman's almost half dozen.
Yeah.
That was great. Anyway, speaking of Wonder Woman, let's talk about Wonder Woman a little bit. We're going to talk about issues 28 and 29, but I want to talk about this series in general because we just came off of a brilliant run by Greg Rucka. We have James Robinson that's going to be jumping on board, and we're at this sort of in-between time for the book where we've got some fill-in going on, but I'm greatly enjoying the fill-in. This book has not missed a beat for me. I'm really a big Wonder Woman fan. I think Rebirth has been terrific for Wonder Woman because I think we had this really edgy New 52 Wonder Woman that was put out there that I was digging. I'm like, okay, this is cool what they just did with Wonder Woman. Then they brought her to present day, and went in a new direction with that, and I was enjoying that. Then Rebirth hit. Greg Rucka came on board. They kind of shook. It was basically took the snow globe and shook everything up in a way that I think has been very beneficial for the title because I'm really enjoying the look of the book, the tone of the book, and I love that the writers who are jumping on board afterwards are just taking this ball and running with it. The costume I think is great right now. I like the mix of the warrior costume. I don't mind that it's reminiscent of the film costume at all, because I think the film costume works. It's everything that I love about it. I love the things they've done with Etta Candy in the comic and Steve Trevor. I think that they've been great additions. I like her relationship with the government, that she works with them, but she's not beholden to them. Everything they're doing right now is, and the lasso and the relationship with that. They did a great thing with the Golden Perfect that I thought was really great in Rucka's last issue that I thought was a pretty stellar way to handle the book. So, overall, I'm very Wonder Woman happy right now. Where are you at with Wonder Woman in general? Where does this title fit in your reading?
Dude, man, I am loving Wonder Woman right now. And I'm just funny because listening to you go off about the movie and just talking about it, I'm sitting there just, yeah, and just nodding my head right along with you because, this has been a title, this has been a character that they're really doing a lot of cool stuff with now, both in the comic book, in the movie universe, because between the big three, she is the most popular of those three characters. Flat out, Wonder Woman beat both Batman and Superman in box office, but also in story. And people say, man, that's a cool character. Is she always that neat? I'm like, oh yeah. They're doing her right, and this is a proper, true Wonder Woman story. And the current title that they're doing, just this last run we had, because you talked a couple quick stuff, but the one thing that they did that I absolutely loved was they gave us this really cool cleaning up her continuity as to whether her mother is a pile of clay that's a part of the island or whether her mother is physically alive. Is the mom blonde hair? Does she have dark hair? They really fixed everything in that the island that Diana was going back to wasn't the true Themyscira. Right. That was this altered creation. And they actually showed her not being able to physically get on the real island. But she was able to kind of do that little breach, through the poison tree. And, and that just that whole ending of that last story arc was an absolutely wonderful way to take the character, clean up anything, and maybe this was the plan the entire time. Don't know. Loved it. It feels like it was 100% what they're planning from from the very first issue of this through that last issue, completely set up, and this was just one giant overarching story. Absolutely loved it. Loved how beginning, middle, end, the little swerves that you didn't see coming. This was a complete story. And so when we get this little, this filler story, I'm thinking, oh, okay, this would be kind of neat. Never once did I think I would be enjoying the filler story just as much as I was enjoying the other one. Yep. Matter of fact, at the end of the second issue of the filler story, I thought that was it. I think, oh, okay, gave the filler a nice 2-issue run. That's kind of neat. So when the third issue starts up, I'm like, wait, the 28, that's still the filler. I thought this would be the new team. No, they're continuing. They have a full story to tell, which is something I absolutely love.
Yes.
It's not just a filler. This just happens to be a shorter run for that writer. They're giving this creative team a full story, and I'm absolutely stoked because 28 and 29 were wonderful stories. I'm really looking forward to 30. I want to see how this story ends.
Yeah, you know what? I totally agree with you on that one. It's I want to see how this story ends. It's a really good story. Actually, let's talk about the creative team. It's Shia Fontana is the writer. David Messina on art, Romulo Fajardo Jr., I apologize, on colors, Jesus Marino and Alex Sinclair on the cover. It's SAIDATEMOFONTE on letters, Jenny Frisson on a variant cover, Brittany Holzer, the associate editor, Chris Conroy editor, Mark Doyle group editor, Wonder Woman created by William Moulton Marston. And honestly, apologies for any name butchery because I'm with you. I thought this was going to be like a couple issue filler and didn't think much of it until I started reading it. And I'm like, oh, well, this is really a good story they're giving me here. And I'm glad it's kind of, we didn't plan to drop in on Wonder Woman during the fill-in creative team. It just kind of worked out this way. We wanted to talk about the book. And I'm really glad we're talking about this story because I'm with you. I love that everything Rook and team did beforehand was so cool. It felt like it was intended all along, even though obviously when a new writer comes on like Greg Rucka, they've got a new direction they're going in. I'm a big fan of when a creative team comes onto a book, if they're going to make drastic changes like was clearly made with Wonder Woman, you do it in such a way where leave it up to the fans to feel if what came before happened. And they left the story in such an open way that you can interpret that however you choose. And I think that's freeing because continuity is an important thing. I think as a fan, if a story's told well, you can choose to fit continuity together because they haven't gone out of their way to stomp it out. And I think that's the catch. Tell me your story. Craft your story for me. Craft your direction. Buy the whole piece that she'd never been back to Themyscira. They opened up the doorway that, yeah, everything you read happened before. But a lot of that was an illusion for Diana. And how cool was that? Because that means those stories actually did happen. They're not like, in your face, none of that counted. I'm never a fan of that. That ruins the continuity aspect of it. So they've been handling this book really, really smart and really, really clever and have kept me involved and feeling like, okay, everything I've read before has mattered. I can go back and read any Wonder Woman story that predates this, and they were all a part of this continuity because of the way they crafted, and that's pretty important to me. So we're in issue number 28 right now. We're dropping it. Ed has already been hurt from that wedding explosion. That story was already resolved with this Dr. Shannon Crawford was set the whole thing up for the purpose of trying to get Wonder Woman's DNA because she was dying and wanted to become an Amazon. Knew that power could possibly be a curative. It opened up this bigger idea, though, of, okay, so you're a hero. You come from this other race, these Amazons. You have this longevity. You've been given powers from a god. It comes to what is your purpose? Is your purpose to help protect the world physically? Or is it your DNA, ultimately, that's supposed to be a part of that puzzle? Are you supposed to cure the uncurable? Are you supposed to help quality of life in a different way? These are real questions that Wonder Woman's posed with in this storyline. There are villains coming to try and capture her for the purpose of getting that DNA. Because at first I was like, what is the attack on Edda's family all about? That wasn't what it was all about. They wanted Diana all along. I love this. I love that there is there'd be a reason that a pharmaceutical company would want a piece of her. and want to be able to use that, why not? Diana's moral conundrum in this story is something we're going to be talking about throughout this segment, because, should she or shouldn't she is the question on the table. And I get her moral conundrum in this. And I really loved how smart this story is. They did not just throw in a filler story here. They throw in one that's really thought-provoking. I'm really digging and enjoying this story.
Well, the title's Heart of the Amazon, Heart of an Amazon. And you look at just what Dr. Crawford went through in the first 2 issues, where eventually, she had all this power that she was able to synthesize from Diana, but she couldn't take her heart. She couldn't take that spirit that, I always say that Wonder Woman's true power is her compassion. That's her true strength. That's where her strength of character comes from. It's not rage. It's not violence. It's not anger. It's her ability to love and be compassionate towards people. And that's, the one thing that the Doctor couldn't copy. And that's why eventually the power, destroyed her. And she couldn't, she ended up, just burning out over it. So I think that for me was a really cool, way that they're bringing this concept into the play. You think about it, how with the lasso, there's, there's special things about that lasso that we never knew about. We never truly understood. Well, now we're seeing that with who Diana is. She's not just muscle and power. There is that inner strength in her, that inner light that makes her do what she can do. You give any other person with her powers, they're not going to be Wonder Woman. You think back to when they had the contest, where Artemis became Wonder Woman, and she learned, we saw somebody else as Wonder Woman that wasn't Diana, and she, handled the role differently, and ultimately what ended up happening to her. So it's kind of a neat thing that they've brought up before in Wonder Woman, but I don't personally ever remember them talking about this whole can a superhero DNA heal other people, or even not just in her and just in other titles. So that was something that I was like, that is neat idea, because that immediately got me thinking Cyborg. You think about Cyborg with his cybernetics, why can't they take that technology and give it to somebody who can't walk anymore? Or give somebody who lost their eyesight, give them cybernetic eyes. There's all these different things. Like, so started thinking, what could the heroes potentially do, and what would be the ramifications behind that? What would be, would you be helping people, or would you bring about the downfall and the death of society? It's kind of a neat thing that, where you look and think about what is the right choice.
I agree with you. That's the thing that I like moral dilemmas, because these are characters with immense powers. And a lot of times the answer is to go in punching, right? Yeah. I like stories where they show that every bit of that character's strength is used in the story, but it's almost background to the real moral dilemma that's on the table. This story really embraces that concept and starts to play with, Diana has all these powers and things. Well, so what if we could tap into it? What if her blood could be used for something? What if that DNA could be used for something? What if gene splicing? In an era where we talk about exploring gene splicing and its morality of it, and an area where we've talked about crafting clones of organs and things like that. These are very real contemporary topics that are being discussed right now. Let's bring that into a Wonder Woman story in a world where we've got metahumans. Why wouldn't they be looking at this and saying, well, couldn't she somehow help us? What if we studied her? That part being brought to the forefront takes Wonder Woman into something that we haven't seen explored to this level. And I really am enjoying this story. It's very, very clever. I loved seeing her at the gravesite because the attack was very personal. This is Etta Candy's family. There was the little girl that Wonder Woman connected with, that she rescued. Etta got hurt during that, but Diana's still at the gravesite, still after the funeral dropping off flowers, because that's who she is. That's kind of her compassion extends beyond that. And that in some ways makes her feel otherworldly in a way that I really like. We talk about Superman as being that guy that you aspire to be somebody that Superman would notice and give you a wink and a nod and good job, dude. But knowing full well that you can't be Superman. You know what I mean? Not the way that Clark is all the time, that moral code. But you aspire to be that good, right? Diana has that flavor too when written correctly, where you look at her and go, I don't know. I could see maybe sort of forgiving her or something like that, or maybe even understanding kind of, she was super ill, why she may have done what she did. But she shot my friend. My friend from the explosion got severely injured, almost died. I'm not gonna be, and then you tried to kill me. I'm not gonna be all lovey-dovey with you and kind of go, let me stop by your gravesite with some flowers. But Diana would, and this felt very much like her. To see her go back to Arlington General Hospital for Etta Candy to be put under her care, because forgetting that Etta doesn't really live with anybody. So Diana being that one who's saying, I'll be her caregiver. I will take care of my friend. On top of the fact that she is Wonder Woman and doing 10 billion other things, she's taking time to take care of her friend who's done so much for her. Etta's been that friend. Etta's been that constant confidant. And I love that this story announced that this story broadcasts the strain between them because of the Cheetah storyline.
Yeah.
Nothing has been thrown out the window. This writer did the research. Editorial did the research. They're making this story relevant to current continuity in a way where I'm like, yes, Etta's even explaining why they're friends again, why she's let that go. It's not so much that she's forgiven Diana, it's that she's made a choice. She chose a side, is how she put it. Yeah. And I love that in this story. Great story.
The scene I loved in Arlington Hospital was one when she's signing, the acceptance release. It's Diana of Themyscira. She doesn't have a last name, which I thought was kind of neat. But I loved when she's initially in the waiting room waiting. There's that, young lady there who's got something going on and she's crying. And then the next panel, you see Diana talking to her. And, they didn't show her approaching her or anything like that, or even exactly what's going on with that person. But what happened off panel. Diana saw her crying. She went to her sister. What's wrong? What can I do? And, and started talking to her and just gave her that shoulder to, complete and total stranger, because that is what Diana would do. And I love just those two little panels right there. They didn't make a big broadcast deal of it. You didn't need to see exactly what's going on. This woman's going through something going on or some tragedy going on in life, but Diana's there for her, and she was just that shoulder for her to cry on, that person to try to help her out. Again, the compassionate Wonder Woman. I love those two panels. That was something that I was like, man, that's cool.
So we see Etta back at the home, and you see some of the dangers of Diana's strength. She's trying to do like dishes and help out for Etta. She's cracking them along the way. That was when we see the first time another bullet coming out. Someone trying to, and the target's not Etta. The target still remains Diana. They're trying to flush Diana out, have her put the chase on. I really loved the action sequence of that. I loved the bracelet, how it was being used. Diana caught it the last minute, threw the bracelet up at the right time, and you see almost the rage at her throwing up that bracelet. This is another attempt on the life of her friend, or another attempt on her that put her friend in danger. It doesn't matter how Diana's viewing that, but I love that she looks and she sees the plate, and she's like, what the? Diana had thrown the plate at her, and she's using the plate as a weapon, showing just her skill set of aim. I really liked how that all played out. The use of bracelets, Etta showing that she has a gun taped under the table. She's an action person. She's ready to help out. Doesn't matter that she's hurt. She is not down for the count. Etta Candy's handling in this, she has been an MVP. I really enjoy the two of them teaming up. It was nice to see. I'm loving Steve Trevor in this, so please don't take this the wrong way when I say this. I was glad to see that we got this time with just Diana and Etta before Steve showed up, because I wanted to see Steve when he did show. But more than that, I wanted to see these two buddy it up, because you don't want Etta to fade too far into the background, because she is wicked cool.
Yeah. Oh, God, yeah. And when Diana's washing those dishes, first thing that was popping through my head was, the crack the dishes, break the plates. That's what Bilbo Baggins hates, from the Hobbit. That was going through my head. But like you, I love the fact that she threw the plate and then followed up on it. And again, the art sequence, throughout that whole combat, throughout that action, Etta going for cover, reaching for the weapon because she is a spy. She will have weapons hidden throughout that house. Again, she may be injured, but she keeps saying it's just a flesh wound. I'll be fine. And you know what? Edda will be. She'll gut check through it. She'll take the pain. That's kind of who she is, and I'm loving the way she looks. But just that art sequence of the chaos in her apartment, and then when she's flying out, when they show the close-up of Diana right there on top of her, if you look down at the house, you see where she blasted out of the windows. There's still the broken fragment from Edda's apartment, and it was a really cool, landscape scenery where, it's showing Diana just moving up. But I love the intensity in Diana's eyes.
Yes.
Right on that sequence. I'm like, she's got that look like somebody's about to get their butt kicked. And I was like, hoorah.
I like that we don't really discover who Mayfly is until the lasso is around her. I like the bit when Mayfly pulled the gun on Diana, had it at her gut, and it was Edda that saved the day there. Firing the bullet from the distance. And you just see speaking of determination, you see the look of determination on Edda's face, where you see that bullet fly into the gun. I like when your heroes' sidekicks, your friends, the partners, whatever you want to call them, have a role like this in there. You see them as active players. You see why that relationship is one of mutual respect. And that's something that this story embraced in a way that's really cool. It so disservices this story to call it a fill-in story. Because like you, it's an arc. And I like the way you worded it. You said that they gave them a good short arc. And it feels like an arc. It feels like an important arc that establishes relationships and has them grow and tells an interesting story that leaves us in a place that we're salivating for the next creative team because of the fact that this story was so good and just makes you want more Wonder Woman. This writer, I don't know who this Shia Fontana is. And apologies for that, other than to say, I want to know. I mean, this story just made me kind of go, I see that name again, I'm jumping right at it. Just because this has been a really well done, well written, and well drawn story. I mean, this is really just everything that I'd want. It does not feel at all like a fill-in.
I know, oh God, I love the Crow.
Yes.
The Messenger of Apollo. That for me was kind of cool because when he was first in first at the cemetery, it was something I know. I'm like, okay, that's something. I don't know what it is yet, but it's something. They wouldn't just go through the show that Crow. And then again, when she shows up at Edda's apartment, okay, who is this? What's going on here? And then as soon as she said Messenger of Apollo, I'm like, all right, there we go. That's cool. More assassins on the way. I loved how, again, you see him just, Edda and Diana, just the friendship, the trust, the partnership going on. Edda's hurt. She's not leaving Diana's side. It's not going to happen. This isn't work. It's personal. And I love the look right there in Edda's face when she's saying that to her. It's, one of those things where like, hey, they're gunning for my friend. I'm not going to let that happen. This is going to, we're going to fight this together. And it was that great kind of buddy cop, partnership moment where they're like, okay, let's take care of this. And then they step outside and great ending to an issue, because they're like, all right, let's go. Okay, we got 4. No, I like that 5. Okay.
And that part's really, really great. I like the idea that some of the assassins that have been chosen are ones that also have medical issues. Because we're seeing this to be a reoccurring theme, that medical issues are driving the connection and the reason why people would be following, or doing this, going after Wonder Woman, because of promises of cures, or being given cures, at least for a temporary part, to hook them up and just saying, hey, you like feeling better? Well, keep doing this for me and you'll continue to feel better. You don't deliver? You won't. I mean,
I completely agree. I love that, but I also do like the fact that some of our are just for the money.
Yes.
They needed to have both, not just the one way. Because if they would have had just one way, you would start really kind of feeling bad for them. And you're like, you'd have that kind of that emotional dilemma. Whereas I like the fact that they had some of the emotional dilemma, some where you're like, okay, they're just hired thugs, and that's what they do, and that's the kind of people who would be attracted to this very lucrative offer. And it's not just going to be the everyday slobs, because this is Wonder Woman. You're going to need upper tier assassins, people with power, people with skill. And that was something I really enjoyed, because right from the beginning, the first initial sniper, had some meta powers. You go down to that final closing scene, you're seeing, okay, that's Cheshire. We know she's tough. Plastique, okay, that's another tough one. Don't know who the others are, but they look pretty badass. All right, she's up against some serious fighting here.
And that's the part that I'm finding interesting, the fact that, you've got some serious fighting going on here. And you believe that not just Diana, that Edda's needed for this piece. I like the confidence of the two of them, though. Edda's hurt still. She was at home recovering, and she's ready to kick some butt on this one. Edda has become a main player for me. I always liked the old Edda Candy and her relationship with Diana. I like that over time they've evolved her. I like the changes they've made to the character. I think she's really interesting at the moment. When we kick back to the next issue, I'm like, yeah, where is Steve? And I like that this story even answers that question of where Steve's at. He was out on a mission. He comes back and he finds out, okay, you deliberately left me in the dark about things that are going on that, about my girlfriend, whatever. I don't know what their relationship is right now. My friend, whatever you want to call it. My partner, Diana, that I should have been known. He's immediately on his bike. This is, again, Wonder Woman. Steve's like, I'm rushing into battle. This is one of my comrades. I like that Steve and Edda have the same role with her. They're strong. They're big players. They don't see themselves as being in the background because Wonder Woman's there. They recognize her power, her strength, and what she brings to the table, but also recognize that everybody needs, to your point, actually, it's something that I do agree with you on, everybody needs some backup from time to time, and they need to be that person. But they also bring an understanding of our world to the table that Diana, because of her background and upbringing, doesn't always get. I really like that. I like seeing that relationship in this piece. Jumping us right back into the battle, already in progress. It's like coming back from wrestling out for commercial break. There's some moves that happened along the way. I don't know what they were. Maybe we'll get them in another panel. But these two are already fighting. Edda, who's still hurt, again, she's got her cane out and she's using it as a weapon. I really loved this battle sequence and how it was going through, not just because of Diana, because Edda Candy was downright sweet in it.
Oh, God, yeah. And again, it's, the thing I like is when they have when they have their partners, when they have their backup, when they have their thing, they're not just, wimpy, oh God, kind of thing. They're actually can throw down.
Yep.
Edda can fight. Steve can fight. These are people who can keep up with people with meta powers. And I love seeing that. It's one of the things that I love the best about, with a really good Bat story where, the Bat family, where Bruce is doing his thing, but Damian or Tim or, Dick are dealing with are fighting their own battles right off the side. And it's one of those things where Bruce doesn't feel like I got to save them, because he knows they can handle what they're doing. Right here, same thing with Wonder Woman. She's dealing with her problems. Edda's dealing with hers. When Diana does need to lend a hand, she lends a hand. When Edda needs to lend a hand, she lends a hand. This is a partnership. These are two warriors fighting side by side. And I love that, just that, again, it's the heart of the Amazon. I love seeing that type of, when Diana needs to go into warrior mode, she goes into warrior mode. Same thing with Edna. When she needs to knuckle up, she knuckles up. These are two really cool characters that I'm really digging, and I'm really happy that Edda is a part of this team. And that they're keeping her in. And I think back to when the first time we did Wonder Woman, I was kind of very critical of Edda as a character, and I was like, what's she doing? Yeah, and I can remember being a little bit snarky about her. This version of Edda, no snark whatsoever. This version of Edda, I'm like, she's cool. I'd read a solo series on her. Give her a little limited series. I'd read that.
Yes.
Just an Edda episode, an Edda issue. I'd read that just because that's how cool this character, how neat they're really making her through multiple writers. This is the third writer writing this Edda who's saying, hey, this is a neat character. Let's continue on some of the stuff we saw in the past. And I'm so happy that we're getting that. And I know we're going to continue getting that, knowing the next creative team, because they do this kind of stuff as well. They take from the past and they move it forward, and they continue on with the past story. So this is a great dynamic on the, we talk about the, team, the team Batman, team Superman. Well, Wonder Woman has her own team now. She's got her own players. She's got her own support cast, and they're really making them strong people to keep up with her.
Yeah, and I think it's something they've always had that role. I think this is just more of a redefining it. Because I think there's been an inconsistency in how they've used these characters, which is what you're alluding to. The fact that these characters have not always been, the strong team characters. They've been the ones that a lot of times Diana's just had to defend, which she still does here because she's Wonder Woman, obviously. But it's the way Superman is with Lois Lane, right? I mean, one of the things what do we dig about Lois Lane? It's what she brings to the table that in many ways Clark can't. And you need those pieces from these characters. Make them valid to me. I loved Edda's whole fight with Cat Eye.
Yeah.
I've known goddesses, and fancy eyeballs or not, you're no goddess. Just a great dialogue. The banter is pretty awesome. Because, I mean, you would imagine the adrenaline in that moment. You're freaked out. You're fighting against a metahuman. You're human. It doesn't matter that you're strong and you have combat training and all that. Banter a lot of times is your way of keeping yourself in the game, keeping yourself feeling strong, keeping yourself distracted from any internal fear that might be building. This read very real to me, and I loved every bit of that. Edda's well-written dialogue-wise as well.
Well, and you talk about just great story and great artwork. And I don't know how much was laid out in the scripts for this artist, but the Edda fight sequences, I love the fact that, when she first has that, I agree with you. I like that was cool. I've known goddesses and, fancy eyeballs or not, you're no goddess. I love that, but also loved how they drew it. She's setting her up for the slap her in an armbar. Later on, you'll see her armbar with a rear naked chokehold right on her. And I was like, they really, either the artist knows a little bit about, is a fan of MMA or something, but this looks really cool. I love the fact that you saw the setup and now you're actually seeing her execute the move. It was I was like, that's kind of neat. And same thing with the Diana fight sequences when she's using one person to, Cheshire to hit, Plastique, and, the variations on using this hero, this villain against this villain against this villain. The nice fluidity of motion that this art, style is showing us. I was like, man, that is cool. That is awesome.
Yeah, the art style is really great in this one, and I think that's so important for there to be communication. And you're right. I don't know if it's a script, editor, writer, where the communication's coming from on this, but there was a great energy here in this issue with how everything played out pacing wise. Seeing the fight, I liked that the villains started fighting each other at times because of the fact that they wanted the prize. I think, they have their own motivations for being there, to the point of what you were saying earlier. Some are there for the money. Some are there for, cures. Some are, there's different motivations for the people there. And you see them come at cross purposes. And that's normal. These are strange bedfellows. And they can turn on a dime. And, Cheshire's like, that prize belongs to me. Diana's, I belong to no one. Just was a great sequence of events leading into the Plastique sequence, which... That's a character who we don't get to see a whole lot of, who I happen to also really enjoy the gimmick of.
Yeah, and just so we can give full credit, there is a different artist on this issue. Iniki Miranda, Miranda, and first name is Inaki. So there is the rest of the team colors, letters, etc. That's all the same, but there is a different pencil and inker. So for this issue, so I want to give full credit on that, just to make sure. But yeah, with the Cheshire scenes, I think that was again, you run into that with the villain teams where you have that where they're going to fight amongst themselves. But it was funny because she spent too much time on an Amazon strength sedative. So once again, showing they're not going for the kill. They need her alive.
Yep.
And I thought that was a kind of a cool thing, because even the last issue when the sniper had the gun to her gut, that wasn't going to kill Diana. It would put her down, but she would live through that. And they need her to be alive for the bounty. This isn't a dead or alive bounty. This is an alive bounty, it sounds like. So that's kind of a neat little twist to this, and seeing these villains do their thing.
I love that the Steve Trevor sequence, I read it through a second time, and I was laughing at all those, because in my mind that I Need a Hero song is playing, and I love it because you just know Steve's not going to make it on time. But he's got like these. I loved how they did this because they're crafting this like dramatic Steve Trevor riding on his motorcycle. I was rushing to get there, and you keep thinking Steve's going to show up and like he's going to save the day at the last minute. I applaud them for not doing that because Etta and Wonder Woman didn't need it, but I wanted him there. I wanted him a part of the team because I want him to be a part of the story moving forward. I really do. But I just love the way that they handled it because they didn't do what you traditionally would expect them to do. Steve to show up at the last minute, he fires a bullet or, his motorcycle takes out a villain or something like that, at the last minute. I like that they didn't do it. We had this like great motorcycle sequence with Steve that just was, I need a hero. And he shows up, ba. It was so awesome.
Okay, here's the funny thing, dude. I had that going through my head as well.
Oh, did you really?
I was going to comment on it. Steve Trevor. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah.
It's wah, wah, wah.
I know. Again, perfect use. This was, it's a funny moment.
Yes.
But it's not any funny moment that takes away from the action we're seeing. It doesn't take away from that cool panel showing him. He hears the gunshots going on, and he guns it even more. He cuts off the big truck there just to, he's basically not stopping at lights, not doing anything. He's running everything to get there, and he doesn't need to be there.
I love seeing, though, the interplay. Again, at a catch and there's a grenade. She's firing bullets. There's a trade-off between the two of them that's happening. Yeah, Diana's doing most of the heavy lifting, sure, literally. But Etta is just an active participant in this whole thing and a strategist and a extra pair of eyes in this situation. And it really was like a buddy cop moment between the two of them that really I just loved. I mean, this is a really well-done issue that I kept telling myself, I'm like, this is a fill-in. What the heck? And I mean, I applaud them for that. This is how you handle this kind of thing. Because as a reader, I was going to say I don't feel cheated. Just the opposite. I found like this story is I want more of it. And I'm glad I'm getting more of it. And it's a captivating story that really does a lot of service to the fans. I'm glad that the writer and the art team, because of the fact that it's booked bi-weekly, I'm assuming that's why we had the art shift. But the art shift is negligible in it being noticed. Thematically, these are very connected issues. We're better served for it. Man, I'm glad this story stayed bi-weekly. I'm glad they didn't do two different creative teams with two different stories. Because I think this story is better served being bi-weekly.
Yes. Oh, God, yeah. And again, just talking about cool Etta Candy moments with the teleporter. That was absolutely wonderful. I love how she's jumping around and she's quoting The Art of War. And Etta's just like, who recites The Art of War when they're fighting? Kids. You want my battle advice, little teleporting warrior? Shut up. Bam!
I like the punch to Plastique.
Oh, God, yeah.
Where she tells her password. I'm going to punch you now 90% for helping bomb my brother's wedding and 10% for having a stupid password. Whack! It was great. Just such great dialogue. It's action movie moments, great dialogue moments. And a lot of this is reminiscent of what I liked in the scripting of the movie. The scripting of the movie had a lot of this stuff where they had humor in it to the point of like Steve showing up at this point. But none of it took away from the sense of action and danger and the fact that these are characters you care about. It just added to a humanity of them that you really want. I really care about these characters. I love Diana's like smile when she sees Steve. There's a reaction to Steve. There's a kiss between the two of them, a moment showing that there's a relationship going there between them that I really, really like. And honestly, him showing up just for that purpose was great. Because he's Steve. He comes in, he's looking cool. Everything's already taken care of. And it's Steve! It was great.
A little late, Steve.
Yeah. But much better served having a chance for, I think, Etta Candy as a character was most benefited from this storyline. Because I'm like you, I would have read from this an Etta Candy spinoff.
Yes. Oh, definitely. And again, this was a really cool just moment where you had some great action and then we kind of calmed things down. And that's when you really start getting into this whole concept of the Wonder Woman's DNA possibly saving people. Breast cancer, sickle cell, hemophilia, various other diseases they're throwing out there. That's saying, hey, she could cure it. Maybe. The intelligence believes it's possible, but they don't know yet. And I think I love just how that notion and that thing is being introduced, and just how, again, this question, and Diana's like, I got to think, really cool seeing her go off and try to figure out what is her purpose, what's the correct path.
Yeah, and that's a piece that I'm finding is very interesting in this, because then it's into this whole moral debate. And I like that Sasha's brought into it, Ed is brought into it, we've got Steve brought into it, them realizing that Wonder Woman's not under their rules and regulations, but she's part of their team. So they debate it out with her, and then she and it really has to go internally to think to herself, so what am I going to do here? What is my right role for this? And we get that wonderful flashback sequence with her and her mother, and her finally just kind of going, I'm looking to the gods for answers, I'm not getting any, so I have to make a decision here. And my decision is, I need to know who's doing this, I need to see what they're offering, and if they really can do what they say they're going to do, I have to consider it. I like that everything's very tentative. I like that there's an honest debate there. I like that not everybody agrees. Even with Steve and her, where Steve's, I'll meet you at home. I'll be making dinner, so don't be late. And even her and Etta having like kind of an epilogue to their battles together, which was great.
Well, and that was a cool line, because Diana threw that to Etta, where she's like, take care of yourself, stop worrying about me, never. That was exactly reversed earlier on in the issue. And I thought that was a really cool moment, showing that, hey, this is the team. This is who they are. This is their connection. And again, it's one of those things with the question. When I'm reading this, I'm like, again, as I said, all those questions started flying about just, different heroes. But I also immediately saw the negative ramifications that could happen from this. You take Diana's DNA and you're able to maybe cure these diseases. But what happens when you put it in a healthy body?
Right.
You make these super soldiers. What if it's the bad guys making the super soldiers? Or maybe there's some other mutation that we don't know about, and maybe we're completely altering, just we're violating the Prime Directive, the natural evolution of a society, right here by introducing this DNA into it. I think it's kind of there's so many different possibilities this can go to, but for me, the biggest thing was, was this completely the bad guy's plan? Throw all these assassins at Wonder Woman to get her to fight them off and all that stuff, but in reality, just wanted to introduce her to this concept of what he's doing, and knowing Wonder Woman, would she turn herself into him? She's walking to him voluntary. Was this grand strategy that he had, was to say, hey, I can't beat Wonder Woman, but if I throw all this muscle at her, she'll defeat them. She'll come researching me, and I can play the I'm doing this for the right purposes type of story arc. I don't know. I don't know if it's, is this a giant scam, or is this as it's playing out as we're seeing it? I think that for me is the coolness of the story, because I really don't know. Because the way they've been crafting the story, they're doing some great twists and turns in this.
And I believe the next issue is the last issue of this arc.
Yeah, I think that's the wrap up.
Man, there feels like there's a lot to wrap up.
Well, the main thing is this really a bad guy? Again, it comes down to that whole, quote unquote, around the bad guy. And he even says at the last thing there, she's like, where she's saying the government knows where I am. Look around, Wonder Woman. We are the government. This right here, could be a whole nother division. Think about it. They wouldn't let Etta and Steve go with her. She had to go about this alone. Why? Because they're going into another military base. Maybe this is a whole nother division of the U.S. government that has been monitoring her and wants to do exactly, super soldiers or curing people, combination of both. Hey, let's help the people, but we'll also help ourselves. There's so many different ways this story can go, and we've already seen that, within the first 3 issues of the story arc, that they're doing little twists and turns along the way, and it's kind of I'm really enjoying it, and I'm like, man, this is an awesome Wonder Woman story.
I'm calling Dr. Frankenstein. I'm pretty convinced he's a bad guy.
You know what? Okay, but hey, honestly, there are some people who will argue whether Dr. Frankenstein was a bad guy.
I'm saying Dr. Frankenstein was a bad guy. I saw
Yeah.
Frankenstein many times. I'm still convinced he was a bad guy. So I'm not arguing on that. And I think Frankenstein would agree that Dr. Frankenstein was a bad
Well,
guy.
yeah, the monster would agree.
Yes,
Definitely.
yes. In this case, that would make Diana Frankenstein. I think she'd agree.
Well, for a while there, she was Gumby. Now she's Frankenstein.
That's right. Is that a forward movement?
I guess.
This is a great book. I'm really Wonder Woman happy right now, and I'm glad when you got a gap between creative teams that you sit there and take a look at how do we put in place a story that's going to matter to people. This is how you treat your fans well. Comics have a lot of competition nowadays. They do with a lot of media. I'm a big gamer. I love television, movies. And there's a lot. I mean, especially with on-demand media nowadays, it's really easy to access stuff. Comic book content, things like that, through a wide variety of sources other than just comics. You got to give me comics that matter to me. When you do something like this that really is fan service, where you say, hey, I know we're between creative teams, but we're going to put a team in, and like you said, Jim, we're going to give you an arc. That's smart. Really, really smart. I don't feel cheated. I feel this is a great story. This is going to be one I'm going to remember. I like that I want to know what's going to happen next issue. You think that he might be a good guy. I know your answers and everything in between. You've got like a rainbow of choices with this guy, and I agree with you. I actually think that's what makes the character compelling. I do think we're going to find out at the end that he's a bad guy. But what's interesting and compelling about it is what you're saying. There's possibilities that he's not, and maybe he is not. Maybe there's other people working with him that have perverted it. I don't know where this story is going to go 100%. That's what's compelling to me. I don't think it's set in stone. I have heavy leanings one way, but that's a personal choice. I'm with you that the story, I think, is far more open-ended than I'm saying.
Right, and let's, just so everybody knows, I think he is a bad guy. So, but the way the story has been crafted and what we've seen from this writer in the first 3 issues is it's may not be what it appears. I think that for me is a great thing going into this, knowing that I think he's a bad guy, but there could be a swerve, and there could be a different ending, even, where she takes out the bad guy, but then Diana goes, he had the right idea. He was evil, and we can't trust him with this. But what if we could find somebody we could trust with this? And that could lead to, who knows, Diana thinking of different stuff. There's so many different ways this story can end, where it can end definitive, yes, bad guy done, punch him in the face, move on, blow up the lab, okay. Or it could end where it's a little bit on the open-ended side, where maybe some good could come from Diana's DNA, because it is an interesting proposition about, could she cure millions just with her DNA? Could she, bring about these great cures for society? I don't know. And that would be something kind of interesting to see, not only just in her, but other characters as well. As I mentioned before, Cyborg. That would be a very weird, that'd be kind of a neat thing to do for people with with the physical disabilities, or the people who've lost limbs and whatnot. I think that could be a very interesting story to go about with him, helping people like that.
Yeah, I like that too. Yeah, so there's some interesting things to explore here, and I think you're right. I think it applies to a lot of characters, which is interesting to me. Jim, you want to we got a listener voicemail, actually, one from a previous episode that the caller called back in. You want to talk about that?
Oh, yeah.
Hey, Sean and Jim, this is Scott Smith. I actually just was listening to episode 503 and heard Sean say that my message did not get recorded. Somehow there was a mix-up with Skype, so I wanted to call back in. What I had said, basically, on my message was, I believe it was like maybe issue number 26, maybe, of Batman, the Jokes and Riddles run. There was a scene where the Joker was showing all these teeth he had pulled on, I forget the gangster's name, but his mom. He had gone and pulled the teeth of this gangster's mom, and he had them all laid out. My question is, I want to know where the Joker got those dental skills from, because I am a dentist, and there is absolutely no way that he could have pulled out every one of those teeth with the roots still intact, unless the only explanation is she had some major gum disease and those teeth were flopping in the wind, or either he has got some mad dental skills, and that's the backstory I want to see. I want to see the Joker in dental school or studying on the internet on how to pull teeth, because that's just crazy. But the other thing, I was curious if you guys haven't discussed it yet, the latest DC animated movie with Harley Quinn, what your opinion of that was. I enjoyed it. I wish there was a couple of scenes that I kind of wish they had left out that were not particularly kid-friendly. You know, I was such a big fan of Batman the Animated Series, and then I saw where Bruce Timm and the guys were coming back to do this. And I enjoyed it. It was good, but there was just a couple of unnecessary scenes that I wish they had left out, just because to me it kind of almost, I don't know what the word is, but it just took away from my enjoyment. And I don't want to spoil anything, but there was a scene between Nightwing and Harley Quinn, which the adult me, you know, I get it, and it was pretty funny, but I just didn't think it was necessary. And then there was another, you know, the fart gag in the Batmobile. It just went on way too long. It was funny, but it just went on way too long. But I was just curious what your opinion of that was, if you've seen it. It's definitely worth seeing, but like I said, kind of a couple of things just took away from my enjoyment. So anyway, I hope you guys have a good day and continue the good work. And again, congratulations on 500 and so many episodes now. Take care. Thanks.
It's funny, as we were chatting, there's a YouTube video called Joker as a Dentist, and it's a scene from Mad Love where in that particular cartoon, he ties up Commissioner Gordon when he was posing as a dentist, and Harley Quinn was posing as a dental assistant. So it actually turns out the Joker did have a career of sorts as a dentist that predates a wide variety of medium. so there's your answer there. The Joker actually, it appears, has been a dentist multiple times throughout the years. That's where it comes from. That's funny, actually. He's a dentist. Listen, you know, that takes a lot of years of work in there, what he was doing. So, yeah, who knows what the Joker does in his downtime, because I would say that he got his dental skills in between panels.
Yeah. And also, you think about it, if you have zero regard for humanity that he sometimes does have, you're able to do a lot that a normal person wouldn't do. For example, if you tried to bite your own hand, you wouldn't be able to break the skin. Reason being, a straight, sane, normal person would not be able to bite through their own hand, because you naturally stop it, because that's your hand. You know, that's just a general thing, and only a crazy person can really bite and draw blood on their own hand. Same can be said with when you're pulling a tooth. If you're going in there, if I were to try to pull one of your teeth, Sean, I would be hesitant because I wouldn't want to hurt you. You're my friend. But if I was completely psychotic and I didn't care whether you got hurt, I could actually go in there, rip it out with maximum full strength without any thought, and maybe that actually could pull the full teeth out with roots and all. You know, you need to be a little bit on the crazy side and not care whether you hurt the person that you're doing this to.
I'm still on whether or not I could pull your teeth out. I get it. You're pretty convinced. I'm not sure.
I'm going to need to watch that next time we're at a con.
yeah, or we're just meeting for dinner. You know, Jim, let me try this. I don't think I can do it, but let me try. Maybe we'll make a podcast episode.
Can Sean pull Jim's teeth?
Oh, we could do it for charity. I like that idea, Jim.
Okay.
This is how you're willing to give. No other podcaster is willing to give the way you are, Jim. I believe in you.
How come I'm the one who's been paying? That's just what I want to know.
Because, Jim, you already said you can't do it.
One day I'll learn to keep my mouth shut.
So, I mean, I'm to be honest, I don't know. So, I mean, there's a question in the air that needs to be answered. I think people would be willing to pay charity for this.
I don't think they would. No, I think we can just pass on this.
So, have you seen the Batman Harley Quinn animated
No, I
feature
haven't
yet?
yet. So
I have. You know, it's he's making an interesting point. That line of animated features traditionally has been known to be more of for the teen audience on up, and because we saw like is the Batman
the
one?
Killing Joke.
Yeah, the Killing Joke had a relationship with Barbara Gordon and Batman that got pretty heated. Yeah, they make some interesting choices with these. This because I liked it a lot because of the fact that it felt like a continuation of Batman the Animated Series, which in itself was a little bit more adult, but I would agree there wasn't a whole lot of content in there that wasn't very kid-friendly. This one did get a little edgy. I expected it because it's one of these one-off animated releases, and I quite enjoyed it, but I get his point saying, you know, at what point is it maybe a little bit too far? And I could see, you know, if you want to watch this with your family, there wasn't a whole lot in there that you couldn't watch with kids. There were a couple sequences, as he's mentioning, where that would be the issue. So I can see his point, other than I think he's addressing it too. These were meant for a teen audience, so I don't know. I'm kind of torn on that. I enjoyed it. His question really is, and I mean it's an interesting one, was it necessary to do that? I don't know. He's right. You probably could have toned that down just a little bit, and it would have been perfectly fine for a larger audience. Because the scenes that he's referencing, and I'm trying not to be spoilery too, like he is, I know what he's talking about. I think you could have pulled back on them a little bit, and they would have been just fine. They didn't bother me any because I'm not that audience, but you know I don't have kids. But I taught kids for years. This is one I would certainly not show my students because of that piece, because I taught third graders, and I wouldn't. So I get his point, saying, you know, hey, if we wanted to share this with, you know, our kids. I think that's part of the problem nowadays is what is the audience for Batman now? I think that there's been different Batmans. Like, let's look at the cartoon Brave and the Bold, for example. That was clearly an all-ages cartoon, right? Nothing in there was inappropriate. It was definitely geared more towards a younger crowd. It was certainly enjoyable for adults like me who greatly love the character, but it was clearly catering towards that crowd. This is clearly catering to a teen and above crowd, the crowd that currently goes to the comic shops. And so that's what they were looking at on this. It becomes an interesting dilemma because his point is, but I'm trying to introduce my kids to this character. Where do I do that at? I think DC's putting in this new line of characters or of comics that are geared more towards a younger crowd. We see some all ages materials in the digital, but there seems to be a gap of material that's not available for all ages anymore. Like they have the DC Superhero Girls, which I haven't read, so I can't comment on what age range, but that's also clearly targeted towards a young girls crowd. So what's being targeted to young boys who you're trying to introduce comics to? I don't know.
Well, it's interesting because like Italy Brother Dave was over with all his kids, and they were watching, you know, my Justice League and you know, the very other the Diniverse movies and TV shows that I have. And they're periodically watching it, and as they're going through, they're looking at the comics. I'm like, okay, you can't read that one, and I had to do a little bit of bob and weave, and I'm like, hey, you just keep watching the cartoons, But then I realized that I had Killing Joke down there. I'm like, oh crap! Let me just grab that and just move this away from them while they're here, because I didn't want them watching Killing Joke because of that one sequence. And so it was interesting that because they're probably old enough that they could have handled that, and they probably could have handled this, but still, I don't know. I don't want to be the one to, hey, we were watching this movie that Uncle Jim, and we saw this. Like, So there is an interesting line, and when you're dealing with animated, what can you do? What should you do? And I don't know. I can't speak on this one because I haven't seen it, so I don't know how bad it is, but I'm kind of in the boat you are, where normally I wouldn't have an issue with it, but like, for example, when I had my nieces and my nephew over, I had an issue. I had to make sure that the one movie that I had up there that's animated they couldn't watch, they didn't watch. So
I'm looking right now, DC's got like the Scooby-Doo team up going right now. Teen Titans Go is obviously all ages. DC Superhero Girls, I mentioned earlier. I'm just looking at their direct-to-digital because that seems to be where a lot of their all-ages material is coming from. They've got Batman 66 running in those miniseries. Like now it's Batman 66 meets the Legion of Superheroes is the one that's currently running. That's about it at the moment. But that, I mean, that's a decent amount to start with. I mean, you know, we're talking about 4 comics. I wonder what's going on, you know, as far as you got to obviously evaluate this material based on sales, right? So I'm wondering if they can only have a certain number of all ages books out at a time, as far as support for them, you know, financial support for them are going. I don't know. It's interesting to see how that works. Because here's the funny thing, you and I were just talking about, in the last couple episodes, some very mature books that are out there. You know, Mr. Miracle, we talked about last episode. We talked about things that were going on in Batwoman that were very mature. Stuff going on in Wonder Woman was pretty edgy and mature. You know, and a lot of that stuff, is that what's appropriate for kids, and what age range do we start them at comic? I don't know now. That's an interesting. The nice part is there's a lot of... in trades and collected editions, all ages comic material that's still out there, especially things like, you know, the Batman Adventures books that actually tied into the animated series. That stuff's all really accessible, and I'd highly recommend. There isn't a ton of current material out in the DC range I'm talking about that's for all ages. So it's an interesting problem, because obviously I want new readers in comics as well, or being exposed to these characters. The Batman Unlimited line, I actually paused this to think it through, and I wanted to look it up. There's a line of 3 recent, and last year was the last one that was released, Batman Unlimited. There was 3 Batman movies. Those are definitely all ages. And not dumbed down, actually. They were pretty good. But they were their own like continuity of all ages Batman movies. So there's some stuff that's out there. Certainly, it'd be nice to see more of it. I guess what would be interesting to see is the sales numbers of those things, because that ultimately is what drives it, right? Is how many people are viewing it. Obviously, we're getting at least, 3 or 4 a year of these teen-rated animated releases. So obviously, there's a success rate to them, because they've been going on for years now. I wonder about the all ages ones and how they're doing. I don't know. I watched the first Batman Unlimited. I actually haven't seen the other 2 yet. I own them. I just have, it's time-wise, I haven't gotten to them. I liked the first one quite a bit. I didn't see the other 2. The first one I saw was Monster Mayhem, and I enjoyed that. I've got Animal Instincts and Mechs vs. Mutants. I was actually just looking through my library. But I watched that other one back in 2015 when it first came out. And it's just an example of, now it's getting to the point where I've got too much... between television and movies and comics. It's like too much choice. And I like it. I like the problem.
You fill up your DVR very quickly, you know. And
yes.
I've got a lot of shows that I watch that, you know, and you recently discovered a couple new shows, like, oh, I got to watch that when that comes out. Oh, add another show to the DVR.
Right, exactly. It's hard to keep up with them. But the Batman Unlimited series is definitely something. They've been recent the past few years that those are more all ages. I don't know. I guess the real question is, does it bother me that the most recent Batman Harley Quinn was more teen-oriented? I don't know that it bothers me. I really enjoyed it. I see his point, though, because it was linked to Batman the Animated Series. So if you watch that with your kids, and this thematically and actually in the way that it was presented was connected to that, would you want it to be something that could be watched with all that? Yeah. So I see his point. It's an interesting debate. It's an interesting sort of debate on that one. I liked it. I mean, I'm glad they're doing another one, but I do see his side of it, and I guess he's left me thinking more than anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah. That didn't take away from my enjoyment. I do agree when he said that fart sequence was a little bit long. Yeah, it was. But, you know, sometimes I thought that was a choice to make because it was a Joker scene. I mean, I'd be curious to see when you see it. We should talk about that on the show when you eventually get around to watching it.
Now was it Blazing Saddles fart seem long, or was it, you know, that's one of the most famous fart scenes, you know, in cinema is from Blazing Saddles.
I'm not going to compare it to Blazing Saddles. Let me put it to you that way. Blazing Saddles is a classic. This was really good. I like the. I think we really need to talk about it in the context of this film. I like that we're comparing it to Blazing. I can't compare it to Blazing Saddles without spoiling it with you right now. So I'm not going to do that. I think you need to see it, and then we need to talk about it. Let me know when you get it. Did you order it?
I may have. I'll be honest. I don't remember. You know, I'm probably going to jump online and jump on YouTube and not YouTube, iTunes. You know, I'm probably buy it that way. To be honest with you. I don't remember if I ordered it or not.
Let me know either way what you're going to do with it, because I'll rewatch it again before the episode where we're next going to record when we record after you've seen it. And I think we really should follow up on it, because I think he's got some interesting questions that are better served by us both having seen it. I would like to remind everyone about our show voicemail line. It's 1-440-388-4434. Or Dr. Norge on Skype. That's always in our show notes. It's always available on our websites. We love having you a part of our show. And you can call in just like Scott just did. And Scott, thank you for calling back in. Sorry about the mix-up from Skype on your last message, but I appreciate you calling back in. There's a lot to discuss there, Jim. We got to watch. You need you to watch that film because I want to discuss Batman Harley Quinn with you. I want to remind everyone about our show website, RagingBullets.com. That's where you'll find out about show releases. It pumps out to Twitter. It pumps out to our... Fumps out. Brand new words. It does fump out to our Facebook fan page. We also are part of a wonderful Facebook group community. It's recently been restarted. Facebook deleted us for some reason, and we started a brand new group up. Links are on our website. They are in our show notes. Please feel free to jump in and be a part of the discussion again. It's just a button click, and it's a wonderful community to be a part of. So we look forward to seeing you over in that Facebook group community. We are also on Google+. You and I are both available on the PlayStation Network. And, I'm Raging_Bullets, and you are, of course, Sensei_Whatnot. It's crazy being able to announce you on the PlayStation Network for a few weeks now. We got Jim over there as well now, which I actually want to change my screen name to Dr. Norge or something now that you're over there, because it was only me for a while, so Raging_Bullets kind of fit. But now if you're going to be over there too. But it's kind of cool. So join us over on the PlayStation Network. We'd love to have you over there with us. I'm also on the Nintendo Network. I think the Miitomo app is the best way to reach me. I'm Dr. Norge on there. Feel free to shoot me an email. I know you got friend codes and things like that, and that's how Nintendo works with it. So come and find me over there. We are sponsored this episode, of course, by DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. Jim, what's going on at DCBService.com?
We've got our bundles, of course, and they're continuing their support of the DC Rebirth, and especially the specials on the metals, the various limited series. All of those are at 50% off, 45% off variant covers. Really nice, but also 50% off. They have DC Superhero Girls boxed set. First four of the all ages Superhero Girls graphic novels all together in a really nice, neat looking box set. That's 50% off, only $17.49. Thank you, DCBS.
Over at InStockTrades.com, some of the latest releases are up, and I mentioned earlier Dead Man by Kelly Jones, the complete edition, 42% off, only $14.49. Aquaman Trade Paperback Volume 3, Crown of Atlantis, 42% off, only $11.59. Batman Trade Paperback Volume 3, this is the Rebirth version, I Am Bane, 42% off, only $9.85. Classic Batman Shadow of the Bat Volume 2 Trade Paperback, 42% off, only $17.39. Lots to choose from over at InStockTrades.com. I want to thank both companies for continuing to support our show. Jim, our next episode, we're going to be talking about, we're actually going to be doing another two-parter. We're going to talk about Batgirl and the Birds of Prey, along with other material. So we will see you guys then.
Bye.
Strategery. What is that supposed to mean? That's a word that I have never seen. Do you exist? Strategery. Suddenly, I don't feel as smart as I used to be. I couldn't find it in a dictionary. Oh, what the heck is strategery? Why I need to know, I don't know, it's just my way. I asked a friend I know, and they told me go away. Strategery. Maybe it's something that is wrong with me. I may need a pill from the pharmacy. Maybe that will cure my strategery. Why I need to know, I don't know, it's just my way. Just because I don't know, I'll just say it anyway. Strategery. A definition isn't meant to be, or at least one that I can see. I'm so confused. Strategery.